I'm Jay Taylor. I'm the editor of Jay Taylor's Gold Energy and Tech Stocks and also host to the radio show Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm here at the Metals Investor Forum. It's November 9th, 2018. And I'm really pleased to be with John Anderson. He is the executive chairman of Triumph Gold, which is a company that is really one of my favorites. It's actually my personally my top holding right now. It is a very exciting story that is developed. I actually knew the project when the previous company had it. It looked pretty good then, but a new management, new geologists, and it's really exciting now. John, I'm really glad that you could join me today.
Great, thanks for having me, Jay. I really appreciate it.
It's really a pleasure. I've been trying to get you up to the Metals Investor Forum before this, but now you've had some phenomenal success this summer. Just some wonderful drill intercepts into a porphyry. But let me ask you, what are you doing differently? How are you viewing the whole project, the whole geology differently than your predecessor company?
Well, what I think separates us from what we had before is we had a low-grade deposit, right at surface, but low-grade. And when we took over the company in 2015, the whole premise was it wasn't valid at $1,200 gold. It needed $1,600 gold or $3 copper. And so we knew we had that. So it gave us some time to, instead of working as a development company, which most people tried to tell us to do, is look at it for what we were. We were trading as an exploration company. Our share price was telling you that. So let's act like an exploration company. So what we wanted to do was look at the project differently. So myself and as chairman and one of our institutional investors said, let's look at it, let's hire some people with different eyes and see what the exploration potential for it was. And that's where we brought in Tony Baresi, who's now our VP of exploration. And that was 2 years ago. And he said this is going to be a 2 to 3 year process. And we're following basically his path to what we think is, well, I think we proved this summer, exploration success.
Right, you're following his path, and let's talk about that exploration success this summer.
So it goes back to 2 years ago or 3 years ago when Tony was on the property in 2016. He wanted to take a look at all the historical data. When you had 80 years of work that was done on the property and it really wasn't put together, he went in during his summer off and because he wasn't working as a full-time geologist then, he was working in the university in business. Anyway, he came back and said there's gold everywhere, and there's got to be a reason for that low-grade surface deposit. And he came back with a compelling argument. And so we went out and told that story, and we were able to attract our first level of proper financing. That was with Gold Corp, who bought 19.9% of the company for $6.5 million at that time. And he came up with 5 ideas over and above the resources. We didn't even touch the old deposits. And he tested 4 of them, successfully tested 4 of the 5 that he went after. And we announced those results last year. It was about this time at the Metals Investment Forum. But the market really didn't understand what we were doing because it didn't have flashy, long intercepts, but the sniffs were there. And that was what we were able to do, or the technical team led by Tony was go through all that data, put it together for a drill plan for this year, and that's what we successfully went after.
Could you give the viewers a sense of the size of your targets? Because I think the existing resource, the historical resource, it was a 43-101, but it goes back to the predecessor company, was from 3 different deposits. But this is a huge system that you have. It's a very, very large property. District scale property.
The project is massive. It's 200 square kilometers. We have, as you said, 43-101 deposits. 2 of them are pretty close by. They're 2 miles apart, called Nucleus and Revenue. And what Tony's theory was that the Revenue deposit was actually a diagram that postdates what the potential for all these other sniffs that he got, and we tested last year. And so you've got these, as Tony explains very clearly, you've got these rabbits that are 500,000 million ounce rabbits at surface. And what we were able to prove is there's a source for that. And we successfully did it on a number of holes this year. And that's really created the excitement to go out and do a very deep IP survey that we're just about to announce when we get the results of that.
But you did put in a couple of pretty deep holes this year. Can you talk about the results from those?
Yes.
Porphyry.
Yeah, we did. I think the most exciting thing that everyone saw, and that's our stock obviously reacted, was the fact that we drilled this blue sky porphyry. And we drilled it last year. We had 25 meters of 0.3 copper and over a gram of gold, which gave you over 1% copper. This year we followed up on it, and we put 7 holes into it, and we had some of the best holes ever in the Yukon. Definitely the best porphyry holes. We had over 300 meters of 0.4% copper, moly, 1.5 gram gold, something that's fairly substantial. On a combined basis, it's over 2 grams of gold, over 1.25% copper. So we know we've got something.
So that was pretty deep. Are you looking at even deeper targets than that? Or in my discussions with you in the past, you sort of hinted at the idea that there could be something very deep here.
Yeah, so what we did is those holes were down to almost 600 meters. Previous IP was only down to about 400 meters. So what we've done is we started after the season started, so in late September, we did an IP survey that's 7 kilometers long, 3 kilometers wide to penetrate the what's down there, and we're going down 1.2 kilometers.
Wow.
And we think the source for this thing is probably even deeper than that. But
one of the keys to success for junior exploration companies is your capital structure. Who owns you? Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's very significant. You're very tightly held. There's not that much of a float. It probably most of the stock is in pretty strong hands. So could you talk about your capital structure?
And that comes back to the philosophy of how we started financing this thing, and it had to do with the property. It's a district-sized play property. It's got great infrastructure. It's going to be the benefit of an upgrade from the federal government. And again, that's why we attracted Gold 2000 originally. They're a 10% holder. We attracted Gold Corp. They're a 20% holder and have actually maintained and increased their holdings. We've got Zijin Mining out of China. They have 10%. Palisades Capital, they're up to 18%. Management and friends are a bunch of us have 5% and have added. We bought in the market. So we're probably about 70% held within about 8 hands.
Yeah, and with only, I think, 80 million shares or something like that out there now.
Yeah, no, we're acting as owners, and we know what the prize is. Sometimes we feel like, in this market, we feel like we're Gulliver and Gulliver's Travels. We see everything, but you've got all these things holding you back, and that's the market. And I think the macro markets are really going to change, I think, pretty soon in the gold market. So we're darn excited about what we have.
I think that's true too, but with a $35 million market cap, I mean, people should put that in perspective. The capital structure, something very considerable, seemingly, and you'll have some more assays coming out yet this year, I think, and from this drill program yet?
Yes, that's true. Although we ended it in September, things do take a long time to get through. We announced the big blue sky porphyry and the WAL breccia, which is a tungsten gold breccia. Those were really mind-boggling ones. What we were able to do this year is continue on other exploration ideas that Tony and his crew had. And so we've got, we just announced nucleus results. We announced some girder results. That probably means nothing to you. These are these little rabbits I referred to earlier on. But we have Irene that was found in 2013, and some of the surface exploration discoveries that we had this year that Tony and his team are really excited about.
So drivers, I guess we'll be watching. Probably you'll come up with a program for next year. You'll probably announce that after you digest all of the data from this year's program. And just as an investor, what should I be looking for?
I think, thank you for saying that, because you understand the path that you have to do. You just don't come out with great results and put them out. It takes some time. So the best thing is, you get that data and then you interpret it, and you don't run around with your chicken or head cut off like chicken. We are getting the IP survey back in the next 2 weeks, and then we're going to know what's going to drive really next year's program and how deep we're going to drill.
It's really an exciting story. Thank you so much for coming up to this program.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Metals Investor Forum, because I think you're one of the best stories out there right now.
Great. Thanks very much for having us. And
thank you so much.
Hopefully you guys will all become shareholders. www.triumphgoldcorp.com.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.